the good, the bad, and everything that made you sad from the previous week. And we had a lot of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory this week, starting with Jacksonville Jaguars. And I've got a very serious question to ask. Granted, he was robbed on a great play in the secondary, but is Travis Hunter good? Have we seen any evidence that Travis Hunter is good in the NFL? Like, he was great in college. He was that dude in college, but I'm perplexed going into coming out of week 2. Is this a good player? Is this a player that deserved to go as high as he did? I mean, granted, I guess based on college performance, yes, but right now in the NFL, I mean, my worries about players like this stand pretty true outside of Deion Sanders, and not everybody's going to be Deion Sanders, and that's that. They don't typically work out. And I went on a rant saying, hey, don't say this guy is the best to ever do certain things when Charles Woodson did the things he did, and Charles Woodson was great in the NFL, winning Defensive Player of the Year trophies, winning a Super Bowl. You put too much expectation on someone like Travis Hunter too soon, and it's probably happened to him his whole life in today's climate where you're always on film if you're very talented. But the Jaguars, and we have some breaking news here. Joe Burrow is out for 3 months, having to have toe surgery, which I would love to know what the actual injury is on the toe that's going to take him out for 3 months. But the Bengals season is over. And it ended with a win over the Jaguars when the Jaguars had their team in its entirety. And I don't know what's going on with Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't know what Trevor Lawrence is either. It's so confusing. It's like when they get to Jacksonville, they forget how to play football, because Trevor Lawrence was god-awful last week against the Bengals. Just absolutely terrible over the weekend. And he could have won. Like, he started off that game great. He could have won. What am I saying? He should have won this game. The Jaguars should have won this game, because when you have Jake Browning come in for Joe Burrow very early on and your team is rolling, and make no mistake, the Jaguars were in fact rolling, and you manage to lose, it is very confusing, and you have to start to ask questions. What the hell is going on? So I'm not going to spend too much time here on the Jacksonville Jaguars, because you know what, who cares? The Jags are going to jag. Let's move over to, but think about that, ponder that. Is Travis Hunter good in the NFL? Let's move over to the college football. We're going to sit here for a little bit. Let's talk about the game of games. All right, so speaking of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, Tennessee Volunteers. Now, we're going to start at the end, and we're going to Tarantino it and bring it back. I am not a huge fan of playing for a field goal. If you have to get a field goal, if there's no shot at you moving down the field and scoring a touchdown, then I get it. But this was not the case in this game. And Josh Heupel played for the field goal, very much so. He had time. The college football game clock is very different than the NFL game clock. It stops after every first down. Every single first down stops the college football clock, okay? So why are you playing for a field goal? And I saw that kid run out onto the field. He looks like a toddler. The infantilize him, but the Tennessee Volunteers kicker looks like a toddler. And you march that kid out there to just lose, essentially, is what happened. Because, yeah, they made it to overtime, but he called it terrible overtime, too. Heupel called it terrible overtime. And then I believe after the game, he put it on the kicker, the loss. And no, Josh, that's not how football works. The loss is on you. The loss has been on you since you started at Tennessee. You can't beat Georgia. Don't blame the kicker for this game. You gave up this game, Josh. It's not the kicker's fault. You have an inability to beat Georgia. This kid was wearing Pampers when you started playing Georgia, and you can't beat them. It's not his fault. It's your fault. You did a terrible job coaching, because Tennessee, at the very beginning of that game, was unstoppable. So you could blame the quarterback, or you could blame Josh Heupel's play calling, because it looks like it was Josh Heupel's fault, not that kid's fault. All right? Georgia had no business winning this game. Tennessee was rolling, and you let Georgia back into the game, and it is your fault, Josh Heupel, that Georgia won. Tennessee, right now, should be looking at the top 10 in college football. They should be looking at being ranked in the top 10, and instead, they're going to drop in the rankings because Josh Heupel doesn't know how to coach a game where there are stakes. He is a good coach. I've seen it. He's won games, but Ohio State playoffs beat. Ranked teams, SEC beat. Are we going to keep giving Josh Heupel a pass? And we're not done talking about coaches that are getting passes. But, geez, do not go out there and put it on the kicker when it is your fault. You're the leader of the team. You put them in that position. You had enough time to get closer. You just need to learn how to call a game to move that ball closer to the field goal if you're playing for a field goal. Or don't blame the kicker when it's your damn fault. You played for a field goal and lost. You played to lose. You played with a tight booty and lost. You got punished for it. All right? You go out and you win the game. That's always been our stance here on the SadFan. You go out there and you win the damn game. If you have an opportunity to put them away with a touchdown, you do that. You do not play for a field goal to play it safe because kickers miss. All right? Now, speaking of blaming everyone but themselves, Dabo Swinney. All right, let's. I called this game, actually. I'm very happy about this. I bet on this game, and I bet that Georgia Tech was going to win because I think Clemson is overrated. And we're going to get to another team here in a bit that I think is overrated. But I believe that Clemson's overrated, and they proved me right. Clemson looks very beatable. Clemson did lose, so they did get beat. They've looked beatable since week 1. They don't appear to be a well-coached football team. Yeah, Dabo Swinney won a couple championships before NIL, and what has he done since then? What has he done after Deshaun Watson? What has he done after Trevor Lawrence, who underperformed under Dabo Swinney and is underperforming in the NFL? That guy has got crazy talent. So I don't know if you can blame Trevor Lawrence. We can remove that. But Dabo Swinney, this is your fault. This is on you. And I said this last week. At what point do we say, hey, your clout has run out? You're done. It's over because you can't win anything. Cade Klubnik, I've never had faith in that guy. Go all the way back to last season of TheSadFan. Watch our first college football episode and watch what I had to say about Cade Klubnik. I've never had faith in Cade Klubnik as a rock star quarterback. All right, and the same goes for our boy up in Penn State. I just don't think that they're good quarterbacks. I think they are products of the college landscape. But they don't appear to be good quarterbacks. They don't appear to be killers that are going to go out there and win a game. They don't look like they have that killer instinct. And I keep getting proven right because they keep losing. Georgia Tech is a team like, yeah, we could say Haynes King is he's amazing, dual threat quarterback. No, he looks like a Navy quarterback. He looks like a quarterback that plays for Navies in the 80s. Navies in the 80s. Looks like a quarterback that runs the triple option. All right? Hey, that's what Haynes King looks like. Yeah, he's a stud. He's strong. He's tough. But he's not going to be anything at the next level. He's a college football quarterback. That's what Haynes King is. And it'd be cool to see him become Taysom Hill, though. Anyway, squirrel moment. What did Clemson have? What business did they have losing this game? None. This is a game they should dominate. And instead, they played into Georgia Tech's hands. Why? Because Dabo's not that dude. He can't coach a game plan to go out there and beat a team that wants to grind you to death. And that's what Georgia Tech wants to do. They want to drag you into the trenches and grind you to death. They want to over and over again run the ball, pop pass over the top. And that's how they want to beat you. And that is, in fact, now there was 2 good throws by Haynes King outside of that. But that, other than those 2 good throws, that is how Clemson lost. Is they got drug into the trenches and beat, and they didn't do anything to avoid it. They didn't code switch at all. They just stayed in that moment, getting their ass whooped, and Dabo Swinney let it happen. And we keep letting these coaches skate. Josh Heupel, Dabo Swinney. All right? No. Hold them accountable. It's enough. You hold your big tough guys when it comes to like Alabama and everything else, but you become the cowardly lion when it comes to these smaller, well, Tennessee's not a smaller market team. They got one of the largest stadiums in the whole world. But when it comes to these smaller teams, you don't want to call for it because you're happy being mediocre. When did mediocre become the standard? Like, Dabo has been largely mediocre. The ACC is not a good conference. So to sit here and be like, I've been 9-3, cool. You're the king of the losers. You're the king of the losers. That's what you're the king of, the losers. The ACC has not been good in your reign. Aside from a Florida State team here and there, the ACC has been bad. So you can be the king of the losers. Are we happy with being the king of the losers? The last thing we're going to talk about today is going to be Oregon sleepwalking their way through the Northwestern game. This tends to happen. You have that that letdown after a high, and they blew out Oklahoma State last week, and we talked about it. And this week, they just appeared to be just going through the motions against Northwestern, almost like this could have been a trap game, but it's not because there's not a humongous game on the other side of it. So with this game, I'm sitting here like, what is going on in Oregon? This is a game where Oregon should rout Northwestern, and they just didn't. The most exciting part of the Oregon-Northwestern game was the mascot for Oregon. That was it. And he's a rock star. He is a boss. The duck was the best part, ignoring the Northwestern mascot, taunting him with little pictures of his head falling off. No, and then going and taking a picture of the bean. Like, Oregon, outside of their mascot, was a bore to watch. And Dan Lanning needs to get that corrected going into some of the meat of his schedule. If as he approaches week 5, they play Penn State. And that's a giant game. And they can't sleepwalk through that game like they slept through the game with Northwestern. So I don't know what's going on with Oregon. I don't think it's boom or bust, but it certainly looked like that last week. I think we're going to see a more well-rounded Oregon team, and I think they're going to step up. But one of the criticisms of the Dan Lanning era is they play to their competition. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot play to your competition, especially in the league they're in now. It's not like the Pac, where you have, like the ACC, a couple tough games here and there, and everything else is an easy slate. This is going to be tough for Oregon in this conference, and we're hoping that they pull it out. Like, I think Oregon is a really good team. I think Oregon is a team that can make a run at a national championship, but they cannot have games like the game against Northwestern. Though you win, it says a lot about how you won in that game. Let's move on to the NFL. All right. Right now, we're approaching Monday night. I will be getting up at 4 a.m. Tuesday morning to watch my Las Vegas Raiders play. And yes, I know that I picked them to finish 4th. And right now, the Chiefs, the team that I picked to win the division, are in 4th, firmly in 4th, as the Broncos already have a win. The Chargers already have a win, and the Raiders already have a win. So they will be in 4th in that division going into week 3. Outside of those things happening, we had one of the most exciting games in a very long time, and it featured a team we just don't like in the Cowboys. Dak Prescott would not die in this game against the Giants. And the New York Giants, bad though they may be, showed up to play the Dallas Cowboys. Russell Wilson turned back the clock quite a bit, or he was just chucking it up saying, you know what, Malik Neighbors is down there somewhere. And he was down there in the end zone. That's that somewhere where Malik Neighbors was. And it was working, but you live by the long ball, you die by the long ball. And the Giants did in fact die by the long ball. Dak Prescott grinded, okay? I don't know if he's going to be one of those guys like Derek Carr was one season, like we've had from John Elway, where it's just like the cardiac king, where he's going to not allow his team to die the entire game and win it at the end. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks make a star term in that way, and I've written Dak Prescott off for a very long time, thinking that Dak Prescott is not that dude, especially with all the weapons that he has. George Pickens showed up in this game. George Pickens was very good in this game. Williams at running back was very good in this game. I don't know what's going on with that Dallas defense. They need to figure something out, because you cannot have Russell Wilson torching you. And Russell Wilson torched that for a majority of the game. Couldn't get it done in overtime. They gave it away. All right. The Giants are another team that snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, because there were many times in that game where I truly thought that it was over, that the Giants had it. But again, Dak Prescott would not go away. Dak Prescott hung around and hung around and hung around until he was given an opportunity to go for the throat, and he did. And the Dallas Cowboys won what was one of the more exciting games over the last 2 weeks. Of course, we had the Bills-Ravens game that we don't get to talk about because it was on a Monday night. That was an amazing game. But the Giants and the Cowboys did say, hold my beer, and went out there and put on a show. It was fantastic. Do I think it's much ado about nothing? Probably, but sometimes that happens. I don't think either of these teams are going to be, well, I know the Giants are going to be a team that makes noise, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to be a team that makes noise this season. So it was really good to see them come out and be great, because they were great. As much as it pains me to say, the Cowboys were great. Defense really bad, but outside of that, that team looked really good in a comeback mode. And I've got to catch the Giants, weird thing to say. And they did. They had that thought process. They had their backs up against the wall, and they in fact caught the Giants, and they won that game. Now, Green Bay Packers on Thursday played the Washington Commanders, and this is I'm going to give you a couple teams that are incredibly scary as we wind down here. The Green Bay Packers are one of the scarier teams I've seen in a long time, and that defense truly reminds me of some of those Super Bowl winning Ravens defenses, where that front rush and those linebackers are going to cripple you. And that's what Green Bay is doing, because look at what Detroit Lions did to the Chicago Bears this weekend. They destroyed them, ran roughshod over them. That offense was humming. It was insane. Jared Goff looked like himself again. And then you watch the Commanders game play the Packers, and Jaden Daniels didn't look great against that defensive front. And you see what happened to Jared Goff. That defensive front is going, if it can stay healthy, is going to give anyone it plays fits, which buys your secondary time to cover up those wide receivers. Okay? It causes mistakes from the quarterback you're playing against, which is what we saw from Jared Goff. We didn't see as many mistakes from Jaden Daniels, but we did see a lack of production from Jaden Daniels against that defensive front of the Green Bay Packers. The Dallas Cowboys gave the Green Bay Packers a gift in Micah Parsons, and he did not play a lot. Okay? He is still hurt. But the Green Bay Packers, especially if this offense and Josh Jacobs and Love can keep it together, stay healthy, man, Jordan Love looks really good when he's healthy. So it makes me wonder, was he a little banged up last year? And Josh Jacobs has always been that dude since he played for the Raiders. So if they can continue to find a way to get it done on offense, I don't think that defense has given up a lot of points this year. I think the Green Bay Packers have the best defense in the NFL this year. They will be the number one ranked defense in the NFL this year. They look fantastic, and they look borderline unbeatable, because that defense is going to win you every game because they're not giving up points, making the pressure on the offense far less. And I think Jordan Love is going to be able to operate under those settings, those conditions, because he looked fantastic too last week. Like I said, making some phenomenal throws. So you got a defense that's not giving up points. You got an offense that's finding its footing. You got a play caller, Matt LaFleur, who I think he's a genius. I truly think he's a really great play caller. If you got all of those three things, you have a recipe to make a run at the Super Bowl. The other team that I think that they're going to meet in the NFC Championship, and I feel bad because I'm not giving my picks yet, but it really looks like this is about to happen. It looks like we got Eagles-Packers collision course for the NFC Championship. Now, obviously, seeding is going to dictate that. But, man, the Eagles' defense looks really great again, too. And that ball control offense, though it can be really boring to watch, gosh, they're going to grind out games. That running game is fantastic. That offensive line is fantastic. Jalen Hurts is going to get you 1 or 2 yards if he needs to. Saquon Barkley is a big play waiting to happen. He's going to average over 4 yards a carry on the ground again this year. Then, as long as A.J. Brown's not in a bad mood crying about something, you got A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, that wide receiver. The Eagles can be an effective and scary team. I think you have a collision course. They went out there, and I did not pick the Eagles to win this game. I thought the Chiefs were not going to lose 2 in a row. They were not going to lose to the Eagles. They were going to avenge their Super Bowl loss, and they did not do that. They totally made me look dumb because they went out there and they weren't good. Okay? Is it age catching up to this team? Are the hits catching up to Patrick Mahomes? What's going on with Kelsey and Mahomes' relationship? It is odd in Kansas City. But one thing that was not odd was how the Eagles played. The Eagles looked fantastic. It looks like it's going to be Eagles against the Packers all season long. Detroit could sneak in there. San Francisco could sneak in there. There was a couple sneaky performances. San Francisco almost let us down against New Orleans, but they didn't. And San Francisco has a really good head coach. And no matter what you say, you could say what you want. Shanahan is a good coach, and he has a great track record of making teams very good. Now, we just grazed over Buffalo Ravens, but Buffalo looks for real too. And Josh Allen had a scary hit over the weekend. Blood pouring out of his nose. I don't know if he got scratched, punched, if something slipped through, but that was scary. And he just came back out there and put the Jets to bed. Justin Fields is out again, like we predicted. I told you, you got a running back playing quarterback. These things are going to happen. You put yourself out there and risk injury, and that's how Justin Fields runs the ball and plays the position. He puts himself at high risk for injury, and he got injured again. And you're just not going to win like that. Look at what I just talked about earlier in the show with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is plagued by injury, and it sucks because he's uber talented. Joe Burrow is a very good quarterback, and he cannot stay healthy. If he's out for 3 months, the Bengals season is over. So if Josh Allen goes down, it might be the same for the Buffalo Bills, even though when he got hurt, they immediately threw the ball with Trubisky. But if Josh Allen goes down, the hopes for the Buffalo Bills goes way down. He is a Superman. And you saw that against the Ravens, and he did nothing but go out there and pummel the Jets. Buffalo is going to win the East again, and Buffalo could be scary. So in that division, I think on Monday, in that conference, I think on Monday we saw our preview of the AFC Championship in Baltimore taking on Buffalo. And all you have to wonder is, can Baltimore keep themselves from choking it away, or is this Buffalo's time to make it back to the Super Bowl? Do they have all the pieces to get them there? I'm not going to sleep on the Lions here, but I just really think there's a lot of there are 4 teams setting themselves apart in the NFL after the first 2 weeks, and that is the Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Packers, and of course the Eagles. Like, those are the 4 teams setting themselves apart. We got some teams in college football, but we're not ready to say if they're for real or not. But keep your eye on Miami. Now, as we wrap up the show, I just want to bring attention to the WNBA playoffs. Las Vegas Aces look to be back as they win their 17th game in a row to start off their playoff run. So keep your eye on the WNBA playoffs. There's some exciting games, and there's some really great teams playing in this playoff this year. And the last thing I want to touch on is Aston Villa score a damn goal. Aston Villa score a damn goal. You got enough players. You got a good skipper in Unai Emery. Score a damn goal. Enough of this. Whatever is going on, find the right fit for these pieces, all right? Get the ball to Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, put in Sancho once he learns the offense, put in Malin earlier, all right? Whatever is going to get you a goal, figure it out, because right now this team is reeling, and it's really upsetting to watch because they cannot get it done, all right? They need to get that ball in the back of the net. Enough with 0-0 or getting blown out. Villa, find the back of the net. All right, that'll do it for us here on The Sad Fan this week. Thank you so much for joining us each and every week. We will see you next time.
Back to the block, I'm scamming. Back in the shop, I'm scamming. Get it off a dummy, I'm scamming. Always get money, I'm scamming.